21. It was our 7th birthday this week.
Ooh, let's celebrate.
Super Sonia is still... Oh, there's the clap. There's the cheers.
We'll do it one more time.
Do it one more time, I think, yeah. We are so happy. Super Sonia, great show as usual. How did you celebrate the 7th birthday of Leica Radio?
I enjoyed eating the cake this morning for breakfast.
Yeah, our manager Raj brought us a chocolate cake. I had a very tiny bit, of course, because of my type 2 diabetes. We left you about 2/3. How much is left?
None. I just had 2 spoons with my cup of jar this morning. So it was chocolate fudge cake for breakfast.
I'm not sure that is particularly healthy, but given your hours when you start,
yes,
I think we
I
accept
need a
that.
sugar rush.
Well, I have brought you a present. Can you see what it is? It's some red Leicester cheese, because I noticed this morning you were talking about cheesy pizzas and cheesy things.
Yeah.
And so I rushed off to Marks and Spencer's, and it's lovely, it's sealed, but it's all the way from Leicester. Here we are.
Red Leicester cheese. This was because of my pizza joke.
Yeah, it's because you're a pizza. But, I'm really concerned at this attack that you've made on Monopoly, because you must know that every Asian person wants to buy a lot of houses in Mayfair.
Oh, my God, that's their dream.
I think it's because Hounslow West is not on the board. It's all central London. Is this the reason why you don't like it?
I've just never been interested in Monopoly. There's no attraction for it.
Really?
Yeah.
So you've never played it?
Unless it's been boring people that have been there and I'll be like, oh, God, I don't want to play with them. I'll probably have to play Monopoly with you.
Well, I think we're going to have a new game just centred on West London with all the streets in there, and maybe we can convince you.
Yes.
Thank you, Sonia. A lovely show. Have a great Sunday.
Thank you.
Apart from Leica, Navneeta Trivedi from Oadby celebrates her birthday today. Happy birthday, Navneeta. I'm sure Mother Hina has baked you a cake. On this day in 1985, 36 years ago, the song New York, New York became the official theme of New York City. We don't have an equivalent in London, though I suppose London Burning by The Clash is not really appropriate. London is the theme for today, for the first part of the programme anyway. Last week, Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, was here. My special guest this week is the Conservative candidate for London, Mayor Shaun Bailey, who will be talking to us about his remarkable journey from youth worker to politician. We will then be hearing about a Manchester-based campaign to get visas for the dependents of our NHS doctors, who, in some cases, are trapped in India. After the news, I will be going into the world of advertising and talking to the godfather of multimedia in the United Kingdom and Europe, Javed Husain, a real giant of our community who, despite his profession, keeps a low profile and lets his adverts do the talking. If you want to phone in for a chat with me, please ring 0203 515 1458. That's 0203 515 1458, but that's after 12:30 p.m. Our songs of the week this week have been chosen by Roshni Thakra from northwest London, who is a lawyer at a FTSE 100 company based in London. Roshni has enjoyed presenting topics from how to develop a healthy mind, mental health, to healthy eating, to climate change, to women in the workplace. Quite a lot of topics. Good morning, Roshni.
Morning, Keith.
Now, why have you chosen these songs, and to whom are they dedicated? First of all, song number 1.
Song number 1 is Suraj Hua Matam in Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham, which is an old classic. And this is really dedicated to my nearest and dearest family and friends. And really, whilst we might be separated, our spirits are always connected. And we look forward to making new memories when that time comes. And I know I sort of speak for the majority of us who are looking forward to that warm embrace and a hug. I do think better times are on the way. And I'm sending everyone lots of love, peace and good health.
It's only 7 days to Valentine's Day. Are you seriously telling me there's been no hugging from you for a whole year?
No, luckily I have had my dose of a couple of hugs, but I think it will be nice when we can sort of have that warm embrace with more of our friends and family. So I've been lucky on that count, but certainly there's lots more hugs that I could definitely look to count on.
Okay. Now, what's your second song, and who is that dedicated to?
So the second song is Galhona Ho you guessed it, Galhona Ho. And this song is dedicated to, firstly, Sir Tom Moore, who sadly passed away this week, but touched us all as a nation and beyond. He was obviously fondly remembered internationally. So I know his story will forever be remembered and celebrated as a real heroic story, providing us all with hope and promise. But I also very much want to take this chance to truly offer thanks and celebrate the wonderful key workers who have been working tirelessly to keep us all safe and well for the last year. Each and every one of you are true heroes, and the nation salutes you. God bless, and thank you sincerely for all that you've been doing.
That is a magnificent tribute. Roshni Thakrar, thank you so much for joining us this Sunday morning. We will look forward to hearing your choices with great excitement.
Thank you so much for having me on, Keith, and I hope that the listeners enjoy the songs. Thank you. God bless.
Like a Radio.
My special guest today was born in a council flat in North Kensington and raised by a single mum. He became homeless in his 20s and struggled to make ends meet, but he turned his life around. In just 100 days' time, if he is backed by the people of London, he will become one of the most powerful men in Europe as Mayor of London, getting a job held only 5 years ago by Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Shaun Bailey was born into a British Jamaican family and gained a degree from London South Bank University. He spent 20 years as a youth worker. In 2006, he co-founded a charity which focused on assisting young people. And then Prime Minister David Cameron appointed him as a special advisor on youth and crime from 2010 to 2013. Shaun Bailey was elected as a member of the Greater London Assembly in 2016. He is now the Conservative Party's candidate for mayor in the election to be held, fingers crossed, on the 6th of May. He joins me this morning from Romford. Good morning, Shaun Bailey. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Keith, and good morning to all your listeners. It's great to be here.
Now, Shaun, I think it's fair to say that you're not a typical politician. How tough was your early life, and did it have an influence on the person that you are today?
I mean, I'm definitely not a typical politician because my route through life has been fairly tough. I was born to a single-parent family in West London, my mum and my brother and I, and poverty was very close to us every day. We had our extended family that really saw us through it in our community, but we spent a long time struggling for money. And of course, I grew up in a time when crime was rife. It was everywhere. There was a big gang situation where I was. Lots of people were drug dealing as well. And as a young person, you spent a lot of your time trying to avoid that. I mean, ultimately, I went to school in Fulham so that I wasn't continually surrounded by that. I think that's one of the things my mum tried to do to help me be safe. But it was strange, Keith, in one sense, because I look back and I really, really enjoyed my childhood. My family, they were full of love. People like my Auntie Norman, Auntie Ryan, Auntie Nez, and my uncles. But the point was we struggled a lot for money, and my mum worked so hard. She had so many jobs, and I remember we had to walk to go to shopping because we just shop it in the local supermarket, but we used to walk there and get the bus back. And when I look back now, that was one of my mum's tactics around saving a little bit of money. So it was tough, but it was full of love. I really enjoyed my family in particular.
Now, from school, you went on to study engineering at South Bank. This is quite different to what you do in later life, your involvement in politics or indeed law, a favourite for politicians. Why were you studying engineering?
First and foremost, Keith, I never had politics on my mind. I just wasn't in a space where I wanted to be a politician. It never crossed my mind. And I think I studied engineering because everybody knows I'm a geek and I love anything technological. And engineering really appealed to me. But the real reason I did it is because at that time, my early 20s, I was homeless. I was unemployed. And I remember signing on. And it just been quite an impressive environment and me wanted to be away from it. I had this part-time job. I was a security guard at the time. And an old man who worked there with me, he said to me, "What am I doing here? If you're a clever young man, you can do more." And he just reminded me that no matter where you start in life, your lot will be improved if you push. And he was echoing the words of my mother. So I just thought, let me try get my education back online. Let me try to get work. And that for me was the beginning of the turnaround. And I just wanted to take charge of my life. And also, at that point, I'd already started youth work. And I wanted to demonstrate to the young people, black, white, rich, poor, you've got to back yourself. You've got to try. And I want to live the way I was preaching, if you see what I mean. So that's why I tried to go back to university. And plus, I just wanted to end homelessness. Sofa surfing, Keith, I cannot tell you the pressure. 1 month, 2 months, sometimes up to a year, I'd have a place to stay. Then all of a sudden it would end. And the pressure was incredible. And I came a few times pretty close to having to sleep rough. And I needed to solve that. And I thought the best way to do that was to not be dependent. The best way to do that was to get an education and build some kind of career.
This just sounds extraordinary that you had to go through all that. Being homeless obviously means that you have a huge amount of empathy for those who don't have what we all regard as a right, a home that is warm and dry and decent. But was it one person who made you turn your life around, or was it a combination? Because you mentioned the huge influence of your mother.
It was definitely a group of people. I take my inspiration from everywhere. People who don't share my beliefs, people who do. So, for instance, when I was doing youth work, the man who was my mentor was a committed socialist. And I never really shared his politics, but he was warm. He was for me. He tried to teach me things. He didn't try to influence me. He just gave me his point of view. There was my mother, who, of course, like all mums, just wants you to do well. And part of my sort of big motivation was making my mum proud. There was a friend around me, and I had my aunties and my uncles who just, they believed in me. And of course, Keith, there's that responsibility. At some point, you must believe that you can do it. A lot of people in the political world, I felt, were robbing us of our agency. They were saying, you're black people, you're poor, we will fix it for you. And ultimately, I knew that I had to do it myself because I couldn't be housed by the council. I had to find a way of doing it myself. And if I fast forward to now, it's why I've come up with a policy, 100,000 homes for £100,000, because I've been in that situation and I want people to have a route out of it to home ownership, something they can believe, something that they can actually understand. And that's why, I was motivated by what happened to me, and not just me, people around me. There's a whole generation of young people I grew up who were in my situation.
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio, talking to Shaun Bailey, the Conservative candidate for Mayor of London, on his fascinating journey into politics. We'll be exploring some of the issues that he's raised later on in the programme. Join me after the break.
सूरज हुआ मध्यम, चांद जलने लगा, आसमां ये हाय क्यों पिघलने लगा। सूरज हुआ मध्यम, चांद जलने लगा, आसमां ये हाय क्यों पिघलने लगा। मैं ठहरा रहा, ज़मीं चलने लगी, धड़का ये दिल, सांस थमने लगी। ओ क्या ये मेरा पहला पहला प्यार है सजना, क्या ये मेरा पहला पहला प्यार है। जलने लगा, आसमां ये हाय क्यों पिघलने लगा। मैं ठहरी रही, ज़मीं चलने लगी, धड़का ये दिल, सांस थमने लगी। हाँ, क्या ये मेरा पहला पहला प्यार है सजना, क्या ये मेरा पहला पहला प्यार है। है खूबसूरत ये पल, सब कुछ रहा है बदल, सपने हकीकत में जो ढल रहे हैं।
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Shaun Bailey, the Conservative candidate for Mayor of London, on his fascinating political journey. Shaun Bailey, you went into youth work, as you've just mentioned. Some may regard that as being a thankless job.
Keith, you're definitely correct. It was a tough job. I was in a very poor neighbourhood, which meant having really tough conversations with people. It often meant, dodging people, getting involved in physical fights. It was a strange time, because remember, I'm talking some 30-odd years ago. And it was a thankless task, but on one end, but on the other end, it was greatly rewarding to take a young person, to help them avoid the local gang, help them get into work, help them get a future, was just beautiful. And along the way, I did so many things that I never thought I'd do. So, for instance, I ran a club for parents. So we went out, we met parents, we helped them with their challenge with their children, often young children, sort of between 6 and 15. We helped them with that situation. I ran a job club, which was a massive joy to me. I also ran an education project where I took young people from West London and partnered them with undergrads from Oxford University, which was rewarding for everybody involved. That was great fun. We raised money for the charity by abseiling down the tallest block of flats in Europe at the time, which was somewhere between terrifying and fun. But ultimately, I was trying to get the message across to people. We are more than people say about us. Let's have some pride in who we are. Let's make our parents proud. Most parents want exactly what their children need. Sometimes somebody needs to point that out to the children. And I just wanted to say to people, if we could make our parents happy, we'd be on the right line. I worked very hard to make a relationship with the police, because the police viewed us as troublesome and we viewed the police suspiciously, and I needed to change that. And that's one of the things I want to do across London. I want London to understand the police are there to serve us, but also we have to help our children not need to be stood in court, to be facing the police, as it were. And that was a long and sometimes torturous process, but I did make it work. And I bump into parents now who are grateful for the way that I was able to keep their children away from crime. And it's something that I want to do across London. We have a lot of crime in London, and I feel like I really understand how we can get under it and make London safer.
You went from the streets into Downing Street when David Cameron appointed you as a special advisor on youth and crime. What was it like working in Downing Street? Not just with David Cameron, but you also, as we know, advised the Department of Education. It must have been quite a leap.
I've got to say, Keith, it was a bit of a culture shock. I mean, the story sort of goes like this. I stood in Hammersmith. I didn't win. A few months later, David Cameron came to me and said, you had a great campaign, because as people know, Keith, I really enjoy campaigning. And he said, why don't you come be a special advisor? And I was a bit shell-shocked. So I said to them on the phone, I need a little moment to think about that. Of course, I was always going to do it, but I needed to tell my mum. I just needed to call my mum, and so I called my mum and I said, pack your bag, we're off to number 10. And I took up the post. But I'd gone from meeting kids on the street every morning to being in number 10. It was a bit of a culture shock. And David Cameron and Steve Hilton at the time said to me, please sense check some of what we're doing. So for a little while, I had no portfolio. I just went across everything. But my natural need to help people, working people, take charge of their own life meant I gravitated towards what I knew, which was youth work, which is the work the government were doing around poverty at the time, and of course the National Citizenship Service. And I helped to deliver the National Citizen Service because I just thought there's a great way of mixing children so they can see how other children live and get some of that good advice, that advice that your listeners probably give to their children every day and don't even realise. There's a lot of children that don't get that, and the NCF was my way of trying to spread it out as far as possible. So I did a very Shaun Bailey thing. I went back to the factory floors. I applied for a job on the NCS as if I was any member of staff and went through the process to see exactly what the children were getting. So I went back into the department and helped them tweak that.
Becoming an inside man, which is what you became, I mean, there's no bigger insider man than being in number 10. Did that show you that actually politicians, whoever they are, feel that they should try and solve problems immediately because the news cycle is so small, rather than accept that it takes a long time to fix something that's broken?
Actually, Keith, what it showed me was sometimes disconnect between the politicians' wants. You're right, politicians do like speed, but let's be clear, so does the public, and our system. Our system is easily the best in the world, but it sometimes isn't that fast. And I watched a lot of politicians thrash about without getting a result they wanted. What I learned from being in that position was how to get that result. It was very interesting working with the Lib Dems. It was very interesting working with the civil servants and realising who you needed to contact to actually get a result. And I took much of that knowledge I learned in number 10 when I went across to education as well. And I believe I was able to get results a lot quicker, actually, because I'd been inside. But what I tried to do, Keith, was hold on to my experience of being homeless, my experience of watching people, lose their children to jail, my experience of a community that desperately wanted to do well but didn't know how. I held on to all of those things and tried to bring them to every meeting, every document I wrote.
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Shaun Bailey, the Conservative candidate for Mayor of London, about his journey into politics. When we come back after the break, I'm going to be asking him about his plans for London. Join me after the break.
Leica Radio.
I love you.
This Valentine's, buy your Valentine a rose gold rose, or silver rose. Gold Bank London Valentine's collection, price starting from just £99. Buy your Valentine's rose from goldbank.co.uk and get delivery, or call 0203 500 1111.
I love you.
Available from independent pharmacies, Ria of London antibacterial hand and surface wipes kills 99.9% of all germs and bacteria. Distributed by Sigma Pharmaceuticals PLC, Watford. Enquiries are welcome. Contact Sigma on 01923 444 999 or visit www.sigmaplc.com. Ria of London antibacterial wipes. What's Kenyan Chevro from Nairobi, made by Bharti Ben, is here. Available at all quality food stores, Tamu and Sunrook in Harrow and Q stores in Finchley. For trade inquiries, call JDM Distributors on 07 525 345520. Pakistan is calling. The mobile plan you've been waiting for has arrived. You can now get 1,000 minutes to call Pakistan from your Leica mobile with Pakistan Plus M bundle. You can also get 3 GB of data and 1,000 minutes and text in the UK. All of that for the low price of £20 for 30 days. Never miss the chance to keep in touch with your family again with Leica Mobile. Visit leicamobile.co.uk to see the full offer today. T&Cs apply. Leica Mobile.
Could you look a bus driver in the eyes and tell them your journey is essential? Could you tell an intensive care nurse you always wear your face covering over your mouth and nose? Can you honestly say you're going out to exercise, not just to meet friends? Around 1 in 3 people who have COVID-19 have no symptoms and are spreading it without knowing. Are you absolutely positive you're not one of them? Stay home. Protect the NHS. Save lives.
During these difficult times, let's help our community to get back into work. Advertise your vacancies, no matter how big or small, on Leica Radio and Dilsey Radio now. We have job spots available at a special rate during this pandemic. Call Leica Media on 0207 7132 1458 or email sales@leicamedia.co.uk.
Leica Radio.
Celebrating 7 years of Leica Radio.
Leica Radio.
And Dilsey Radio.
Dilsey Radio.
Thank you, our dear listeners, advertisers, and well-wishers for your support.
Talking Points with Keith Vaz, celebrating diversity.
This is Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Shaun Bailey, the Conservative candidate for Mayor of London. Shaun Bailey, in 100 days' time, you will be, if elected, one of the most powerful men in Europe with a budget of £17 billion. What is wrong with the way London is being run at the moment?
Look, Keith, it would be easy for me to sit here and sort of be horrible about Sadiq Khan. That's not my intention. That's not the man I hope I am. But what I would say is London needs a leadership. London needs a fresh start. And if I was to break it down into 3 areas, if I was to say the real big problem we have, number one, is crime. I think the mayor has misunderstood what generates crime in London, what's pushing it, and therefore he's pursued the wrong lines to get rid of crime. So I've broken it down into 3 areas. One, we need better and more enforcement. It's why I talk about 40,000 police officers. It's why I talk about we have to do stop and search. For instance, if you're armed in London, we must send the message you will be caught. That's one thing. The other thing about greater man and woman power, boots on the ground in London. If you speak to anybody about the police, what they'll say is they're fed up with the police not following up. I want to give the police the man and the woman power to do that. If you speak to criminals, why they keep going is because if you're a criminal and nobody stops you, why would you? I need to let criminals know it's me versus you. I have the manpower. You're in big trouble. We need to make being a criminal in London much more risky. And that's the first piece. But of course, we can't arrest our way out of these problems. If you go all the way to the other end, I want to provide at least one youth zone in every borough of London, at least one. And I've been working with a national charity that I think we can achieve that goal quite easily. The other pieces as well, we have a number of young people who go in and out of jail the whole time. I want to make sure we take some of the adult education budget, build a second chance fund, and get these people the correct training so they can actually, have something to sell in the job market and get employed. The other thing, of course, Keith, is the thing that's close to my heart, is homelessness. And, the fact that in London we have never been anywhere close to providing the housing we need. The mayor missed his own target. He then missed the target the government gave him. He then missed the target they all agreed on. And I think the reason he missed that is the tactic he's using to build. Firstly, if you only build social housing, you just increase the need for social housing. What I want to do is do 100,000 homes, £100,000, so that people can own a stake in London. People are much more committed if they own some of their communities. That's the first piece. The second piece as well, I'll build social housing so that we can spread the need across. So we'll deliver the social housing we already have and then continue to deliver a new type of housing with shared ownership. Very, very important, because I want young people, anybody below 40, have the ability to own in London.
Can I just ask you, on transport, over half your budget, £10 billion, will go on transport for London. What are you going to do for transport, in particular, the thing that's causing a lot of concern, which is the extension of the congestion charge?
When you talk about transport in London, you have to be aware how enormous London is. London is the biggest city in Europe by some way, both in population and in land area. And our whole southeast of this country works because our transport system works. It's integral to London's economy and the country's economy. That's why I will get rid of the congestion charge and put it back to where it was. So the mayor's expanded its operating time and the cost. I will put that back, because on the back of Corona, we need to help London business, not make it more expensive. I certainly will not have the mayor's boundary charge. He's introducing an outer London tax that I think will kill business and make family life in outer London much tougher. The idea that we only go into the centre of London is ridiculous. People cross the barrier all the time, and if we charge them that money, they won't. They'll go elsewhere, and business and family life in London will just die, certainly on the outside. And of course, if you live on the inside of London, tradespeople will just add that cost to your cost, so everybody ends up paying more. And the last thing, of course, is council tax. I will not increase council tax, because that council tax increase hits everyone, particularly the poorest, the hardest. So what I will do to bring more money to the transport system is do a sponsorship scheme. They did it in New York, they did it in Dubai. In Dubai, they raised $400 million with their sponsorship scheme, and that's where you sponsor and change names on the tube temporarily for companies to advertise. We also did it in the Olympics, by the way. But in Dubai, as I said, they earned $400 million doing that. Their system is about as big as our district line. So consequently, it's obvious to anybody we have a far bigger scope to raise far more money. So I want to do that, so I can put that money back in TfL. I think TfL and City Hall still need some reform, because there's very huge bills that we pay to those organisations that I think if we spent the money better, we could get more out of them. TfL pensions, for instance, could be reformed to give much better value to Londoners.
Now, finally, in this section, knife crime is on the increase. You have a long-standing interest in that issue. Are you prepared to stand up to Priti Patel and ask for more police officers and more money from the Metropolitan Police in order to make the streets of London safer? Or is it more than just having more police officers dealing with this scourge of knife crime?
Number one, I'm prepared to stand up to anybody, including Priti Patel, about getting the right amount of help in London. But to your point, Keith, it is more than just money. Make no mistake, we do need more boots on the ground in London. We absolutely do. But the other piece we need to do is involve families in teaching their children, in controlling their children slightly better. We need to give young people more prospects to own their own property, prospects to get the training that they need, because that keeps them awake as well. And also, we need to make sure that criminals feel that there's some pressure. The way criminals are dealt with in London now, they feel like they can get away with it. Two of Sadiq Khan's pronouncements that I thought were really unhelpful. One of his first acts when he became mayor was to remove £38 million from the police staffing budget. But straight away, the police numbers were on a downward curve, so were their civilian help. And secondly, he turned around and told all criminals in London it would take 10 years to solve knife crime. And what he said was, criminals received that as, okay, I've got 10 years to misbehave, or I better arm myself for 10 years because nobody else is going to do anything. I will be telling people we're going to get on this immediately. Immediately we must get on that, because London does not work unless it's open, and London is not open if people are afraid. Just the other day, the car released a report saying that we've lost billions of pounds in tourist revenue. Those tourists will not come back if London is perceived as dangerous. Even under lockdown, we have had a rise in gun crime. We've had a 73% rise in robbery since 2016. And the trend of crime under Sadiq Khan has been upwards. I will absolutely smash that and force it downwards. The current tactics being used are a risk to London's recovery. I want to change them because London needs a fresh start.
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. After I talk to Shaun Bailey, we'll be hearing from the chairman of the Overseas Doctors Association, Professor Bumrah, about the importance of visas for the dependents of our doctors. And I will be talking to Javed Husain, the founder of Media Reach Advertising. Join me after the break.
हर घड़ी बदल रही है रूप जिंदगी छाँव है कभी कभी है धूप जिंदगी हर पल यहाँ जी भर जियो जो है समा कल हो न हो हर घड़ी बदल रही है रूप जिंदगी छाँव है कभी कभी है धूप जिंदगी हर पल यहाँ जी भर जियो जो है समा कल हो न हो चाहे जो तुम्हें पूरे दिल से मिलता है वो मुश्किल से ऐसा जो कोई कहीं है बस वही सबसे हंसी है उस हाथ को तुम थाम लो वो मेहरबान कल हो न हो हर पल यहाँ जी भर जियो जो है समा कल हो न हो
This is Leica Radio.
This is Leica Radio.
Happy Weekend by MeraBoiler.com. Their special offer. Valiant boiler with 10 years part and labor guarantee with 0% finance available. MeraBoiler.com.
Leica Radio.
Leica Radio. Travel update.
I'm Michael Page. In Watford, Chalk Hill, the A411 has been closed westbound near the Victoria pub for emergency repairs. Willesden Lane is still closed in Kilburn, both ways between the A5 Kilburn High Road and Christchurch Primary School for a police investigation. And Leatherhead Road, the A243, is still closed in Chessington between the Morden Rush at traffic lights and Garrison Lane because of an earlier building fire. There are severe delays on the Circle Line, the Hammersmith and City Line and the District Line between High Street, Kensington and Edgware because of an earlier staff shortage. And because of engineering work, there are no Northern Line trains running between Moorgate and Kennington. The Metropolitan Line isn't running between Harrow on the Hill and Aldgate, and there are no Jubilee Line trains between West Hampstead and Stanmore. There are delays of up to an hour on Chiltern Railways between Harrow on the Hill and Aylesbury Vale Parkway because of an earlier operational incident. And just a reminder that South Eastern and Southern have cancelled many services because of the snow this morning, and it's best to check before setting out to see how your journey is affected. And that's the latest traffic and travel.
Leica Radio.
At Tesco, every little helps goes way beyond helping with your shopping. A little help is
£85 million in grants for community projects, from supporting cancer charities
to protecting mental health programmes, or just keeping kids safe.
And it's being there for my daughter Nora as the only supermarket with 100 changing places facilities across the UK.
A little help makes a big difference.
Tesco. Every little helps.
Leica. Talking Points with Keith Vaz, celebrating diversity.
This is Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio, talking to the Conservative candidate for Mayor of London, who in 100 days' time could be running the biggest city in the whole of Europe. Shaun Bailey, you will be governing for all, of course, if you're elected, but the fact is you will be London's first ever black mayor. Have you faced racism in politics? What is your view about the work of Black Lives Matter? What's disappointing is despite everything that's being done, you still have football players like Marcus Rashford and others getting racist abuse, despite everything, despite the fact that we're in 2021.
Have I faced racism in politics? Yes, not as much as I assumed I would when I joined in. The story of my life has been what I call vanguarding. I'm often the first and having to get involved and wade through those issues. So I'm the first black candidate for Mayor of London from one of the major parties. Is a badge of pride, but also something that I tend to ignore. I'm much more interested in the fact that I'm a parent. I'm much more interested in the fact that I'm from a working class background. I'm much more interested in the fact that I believe in an equal playing field for everybody. That's who I am when I look at myself around being Mayor of London. One of the great things about London is going across London and meeting all the different communities. I've been to Gurdwaras, I've been to mosques, I've been to churches, I've been everywhere. I went to synagogue a little while ago as well. You know, there's no religious place I haven't been to. But the point I want to make is this. I have always and will continue to focus on what makes us the same. All of your listeners now could be from a completely different ethnic background to me, but I can tell them exactly what they're worrying about. Can they get a job? Can their children get a job? Where they're going to live? Are they going to be safe? Will their son and their daughter get married? You know, these are the things that we are all really concerned about, and this is what I want to work on. The question of racism in politics. I mean, I had a Labour MP call me a token ghetto boy. Now, everybody was very hurt by that. I was annoyed, but what it reminded me is I am first, and hopefully I can turn that into inspiration. I can say to a young Indian boy, I don't know, a Pakistani girl, my neighbours are from Afghanistan, I can say, look at me, I'm visibly different, and I was able to do this. So are you. I want my walk through public life to be a demonstration. I look at the likes of you, Keith, who arrived long before I did. You know what it's like. You've waded through it. And although we sit in different places on the political spectrum, you have made me possible. You have made it much less extraordinary for a person of colour to go on this journey. I just want to do my bit to help that happen. And when I talk to the black community, it's very heartwarming. No matter which side of the political divide they sit on, they're always happy to have me. And they'll say to me things like, you know, you're an inspiration to us. You understand what's going on for us. And I just want to make sure I get our voices heard at the top table. And that brings me to Black Lives Matter. Look, the goal of equality for black people is probably the most noble goal that the planet has yet to achieve. And Black Lives Matter saying to people, you know, black people want parity. And I don't think we need special treatment. I think we need parity is fine. But some of their other goals, I think, were hijacked, and it turned Black Lives Matter into something else, something that many black people, including myself, couldn't really get on board with. I think, Keith, for instance, one of the greatest structures known to man is the family, the nuclear family, and the extended version of that. So any group of people who say they want to dismantle that, I can't support that. Because I know in my own personal journey, and most of the people around me, it only was possible because they had some family. So while I think the overarching goal is great, I think sometimes the particular tactics and things they've asked for haven't always been in line with what the larger black community would want.
Now, you're born in London, you've lived all your life in London, your family's in London, you're now running for Mayor of London. What do you most love about London? Why is it special to you?
I'd say this, Keith. There's three things I most love. Firstly, number one, by far, is the people. You know, if your listeners are outside of London, I really want them to understand just what a melting pot this place is. One of my neighbours is from India, the other one's from Afghanistan, I'm from Jamaica. Down the end of the road, we've got a guy from Kent. At the other end of the road, we have a guy who comes from Scotland. It's such a mix of people. Just across the green as well, there's our Australian friend. I mean, it's such a mix of people. It's such a buzz down here. And any problem that the human race faces, somebody in London has given serious thought to that. And I really like that notion. The other piece as well is the physicality of London. London is enormous. It really is. And it means you can really get to grips with your local area of London, but you can still go out to other parts of London and almost feel like you're on holiday. It's such fun here. Like, I live north of the river. To most, that'll make sense to Londoners. I don't know the south of the river much. I mean, I have lived in Lewisham for a while, but I didn't know it that well. So it's like a day trip to go over to there if you catch my drift. And the third thing I'd say is what I call the London promise. If you put in the work, London will reward you with a good work-life balance, good friends, good family, good job. That London promise is what makes me love London. It's what drew me into politics, not only making sure my community succeeded, but making sure we had access to the London promise. And those three things together just make London the best place in the world. And that's why I'm a proud Londoner and running for Mayor of London.
Finally, Shaun, we always ask our guests to choose a song that is special to them and to dedicate it to someone special. What's your song and who is it dedicated to?
Keith, I'm very fortunate. I have two women in my life. One is called Eleanor, who's my wife, and one is called Carmen, who's my mum. But Eleanor was fortunate to marry the man that Carmen had made. My song is for my mum, Carmen. She has been special to me over the years from the very beginning. Anybody listening to this who is a mother will understand. And anyone who's had the love of a strong mother who's always pushed them will also understand. So it's dedicated to my mother. The song is Say a Little Prayer by Aretha Franklin, because it's sung from the perspective of a woman. It's a marvellous song. And anybody who knows me knows I'm a big music fan, and Aretha is one of my favourites.
Shaun Bailey, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us on Talking Points, especially right in the middle of your campaign. On behalf of the listeners of Leica Radio, as I will be saying in neutrality to all the candidates, the very best of luck in the election.
Thank you very much, Keith, and good day, to all of your listeners.
Let's hear Shaun Bailey's song.
The moment I wake up, before I put on my makeup, I say a little prayer for you. And while combing my hair now, and wondering what dress to wear now, I say a little prayer for you. The bus stand, but while riding I think of us days. I say a little prayer for you. And at work I just take time, and on through my coffee break time, I say a little prayer for you. Forever and ever, stay in my heart and I will love you forever and ever.
Leica Radio.
Celebrating 7 years of Leica Radio.
Leica Radio.
And Dilse Radio.
Dilse Radio.
Thank you, our dear listeners, advertisers, and well-wishers for your support.
If you're wondering what you can do with your pension pot, this could be how you're feeling. That's the sound of worry and uncertainty. But you could be hearing this. Let's call it the sound of clarity, which you can get from PensionWise. a government service providing free, impartial guidance. In just an hour, you'll get clarity on all your options so everything feels less and a little more. If you're over 50, discover the power of an hour and call 0800 144 8944 or visit pensionwise.gov.uk.
Yono SBI UK mobile app.
Send money to India anytime from anywhere with preferential exchange rate.
Yono SBI UK mobile app.
Open an instant access saving account right from your mobile.
Terms and conditions apply. SBI UK Limited is authorised by the PRA and regulated by the FCA and PRA.
Get 50% off for 3 months with Leica Mobile. Get the best offers to connect to your family and friends wherever they are in this world. Talk, browse, roam free with offers from Leica Mobile. Gift a Leica Mobile SIM with data and talk plans and get 50% off for 3 months. So hurry! Enjoy this great offer with Leica Mobile.
Hi, I'm Vish, and Leica Radio has teamed up with the Gold Bank London to offer our listeners a gold rose this Valentine's. Tune into my drive time show every day from Monday to Friday between 4 and 7 p.m. and answer a lovey-dovey question. If you get the answer right, your name goes into our lover's hat and we'll pick out a winner on Friday. So gift a gold rose from Gold Bank London on my drive time show 4 till 7 p.m. Happy Valentine's!
ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੱਸ ਡਰਾਈਵਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਅੱਖਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਇਹ ਸਫ਼ਰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ? ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੰਟੈਂਸਿਵ ਕੇਅਰ ਨਰਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਪੂਰੇ ਵਿਸ਼ਵਾਸ ਨਾਲ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੂੰਹ ਤੇ ਨੱਕ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਢੱਕ ਕੇ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਹੋ? ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੱਚੋ ਸੱਚ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਐਕਸਰਸਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਯਾਰਾਂ ਦੋਸਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਣ ਲਈ ਨਹੀਂ? ਘੱਟ ਤੋਂ ਘੱਟ 3 ਚੋਂ 1 ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਵਿਡ-19 ਦੇ ਕੋਈ ਲੱਛਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿਸਦੇ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਇਹ ਜਾਣੇ ਬਗੈਰ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਫੈਲਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਕੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦਾ ਪੂਰਾ ਯਕੀਨ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ? ਘਰ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਰਹੋ, NHS ਦੀ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਕਰੋ, ਜਾਨਾਂ ਬਚਾਓ।
Celebrating 7 years of Leica Radio.
Leica Radio.
And Dilse Radio.
Dilse Radio.
जीने की वजह थोड़ी बेवजह ये मौसम का जादू है
Thank you, our dear listeners, advertisers, and well-wishers for your support.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. Before we close this part of the programme, let's look at one of the personal consequences of the pandemic for some of our doctors and nurses. There are currently around 25,800 doctors, nurses, medical staff from India working in the NHS. Prominent doctors' organisations have written to the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, urging her to change the current rules relating to adult dependent relatives, ADR visas. As they say, it has, and I quote, heart-wrenching consequences on medical practitioners. Dr. J.S. Bumrah is a chair of the British Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, BAPIO. He is also consultant psychiatrist at North Manchester General Hospital, medical director of the Manchester Mental Health and Social Care Trust, and he's won numerous awards. He joins me this morning from Manchester. Good morning, Professor Bumrah.
Good morning, Keith.
Now, Professor Bumrah, why is this issue causing so much concern?
Let me just put this into a broader context because we're representing a number of organizations, the British Medical Association, the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the Association of Pakistani Physicians of Northern Europe, the Royal Psychiatrists, Royal College of General Practitioners, the Royal Colleges of Ophthalmologists. So all of us have got together to impress on the Home Secretary that, look, this pandemic has put sort of a strange hardship on overseas doctors. Now, there are about 153,000 non-British workers in the NHS. 40% of hospital doctors are from overseas. Over 20% of GPs are from overseas. And what has happened is that they have older parents. Usually these doctors come from South Asian countries, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. And during the pandemic, they've not been able to support their parents. You know, some of my colleagues have had their parents pass away while they've been here. They've not been able to travel because of the travel ban, the lockdown. Situation in India wasn't terribly good. Some have gone there to look after their ailing parents because they've had COVID or something else and haven't been able to come back. So apart from the emotional stress on them. There has been that obvious issue within the NHS that their colleagues have had to cover their absences, and when they come back they feel guilty. They have to work harder to cover those absences.
What do you want the Home Secretary to change?
So what we're asking the Home Secretary is to review these adult-dependent relative rules so that they're not as stringent. Now, there aren't very many numbers, So before 2012, before the rule change came in, there were only about 2,325 applications made a year. They've gone down drastically to just about 162 applications in 2016. It's not a lot of people, really. And what we're asking is, you have to relax the rules, please, on this, because it is causing hardship, emotional hardship on these people. It's so difficult for parents. Not every parent overseas wants to come over, by the way. But, those that need to come over are, for instance, if their only son or daughter is here, and they obviously have need, and they don't actually sponge on the state. That's another thing. So there are lots of myths around this.
But if you think of the number of visas being offered to people from Hong Kong, that's 150,000. So we're talking about, small hundreds here, aren't we? This is not a huge number.
No, and in the context of the Hong Kong visa issue, which the Prime Minister has just now relaxed the rules, it seems to us that people who serve the NHS, overseas doctors and nurses, are the backbone of the NHS. So this is not a reward. We're just simply saying, look, please redress this because it's causing serious hardship.
Well, it sounds like a very worthwhile cause, and I'm sure it will be pursued by your organisation and also others. And can I say to our listeners, if you are affected by this and you want to share your thoughts with us, please ring in to the programme during the second part of the programme after 12:30 on 0203 515 1458. One final question, since you are an expert on mental health. Has the COVID situation increased the number of mental health referrals that you have seen?
Absolutely. That is what I call the hidden pandemic of people with mental health issues, a range of issues, if I may. So depression has increased. Some patients have had suicidal thoughts. Insomnia has been around, serious insomnia from March, to be truthful, from the time of the first lockdown. People have become very stressed. People have become very anxious. There have been surveys that have shown that in the last couple of weeks, almost 80% of the population, for instance, in Canada, reported in a large sample that they had had serious mental health issues. So absolutely, drinking has increased, drinking alcohol, eating too much, binge eating, comfort eating, that sort of thing. And we also know that domestic abuse has increased. So the pandemic has caused serious mental health hardship on people as well.
Well, that is very concerning, and I'm sure that we will return to that subject in the future. Professor Bumrah, thank you so much for joining us on Talking Points this afternoon. Please keep us informed of any developments in this particular area. And to those listeners who are affected by the changes in the rules that Professor Bumrah talked about, please ring me on 0203 515 1458. That's 0203 515 1458 after 12:30 p.m. Thank you, Professor Bumrah.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Leica Radio. Thank you, Keith.
Leica Radio.
The Flight Update is brought to you by TravelUp.com. Flights, hotels and holidays.
A flight update, BA flight number 3593 flying in from Atlanta, landing at London Heathrow, expected 12:30 this afternoon.
This flight update was brought to you by TravelUp.com. Lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com or call 0207 580 5000.
I love you. This Valentine's, buy your Valentine a rose gold rose, gold rose or silver rose. Gold Bank London Valentine's collection, price starting from just £99. Buy your Valentine's rose from goldbank.co.uk and get delivery, or call 0203 500 1111.
I love you. German Doner Kebab with 15 restaurants across London, including Mile End, West Ham, Stratford and many more locations. Now open in Bethnal Green. Enjoy that delicious German Doner Kebab goodness. Succulent meats, freshly chopped salad, vegetables, signature sauces and our toasted waffle bread. Freshly made every time. Try our original German Doner Kebab or the Kekal Kebab or perhaps the Gym Box and so much more. Open 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. 372 Bethnal Green Road, London. For takeaway and delivery through Deliveroo and Uber Eats. German Doner Kebab. Kebabs done right.
एक कप चाय मिलेगी?
नो चाय। कितनी दफा कहा है कि हमारी विंडोज चेंज करवा दो, पर तुम हो कि मेरी सुनते ही नहीं हो। आपके भाई ने ब्रिट विंडोज से सप्लाई और इंस्टॉल किया है, जिनके यहाँ सबसे अच्छी UPVC और एल्युमिनियम डोर्स, विंडोज एंड बायफोल्ड डोर्स हैं। 10 साल की गारंटी भी है। उनकी फिटिंग्स बेहतरीन है और फैंसा रजिस्टर। और क्या चाहिए?
तुम्हारे लिए कुछ भी।
You're so sweet.
Call Brick Windows for your free design survey and estimate on 07984 597 319 or 0788 2944 507 or visit brickwindows.com.
If you're wondering what you can do with your pension pot, this could be how you're feeling. That's the sound of worry and uncertainty. But you could be hearing this. Let's call it the sound of clarity, which you can get from PensionWise, a government service providing free, impartial guidance. In just an hour, you'll get clarity on all your options so everything feels less and a little more. If you're over 50, discover the power of an hour and call 0800 144 8944 or visit pensionwise.gov.uk. Wouldn't it be nice to forget about data? With Leica Mobile's UK Unlimited plan, you can. You get unlimited data, unlimited UK minutes and texts, all for just £19 for 30 days. Choose freedom with our unlimited plan. No contract, no commitment. So you can sing, dance, chat and smile to your heart's content. Visit leicamobile.co.uk to go unlimited today. Leica Mobile. We do data.
Leica Radio and Dulce Radio celebrate Valentine's Day with you. We know how Valentine's Day will be different this year, and that's why Leica Media wants to convey your message to your loved ones. Send in your audio voice note to Leica Media on our WhatsApp number 07424 40 40 40. Then listen on Valentine's Day across our stations for your message. Make your audio note short and snappy and get them in before the 13th of February. Leica Media. With you always, Bollywood classics and the latest hits.
Non-stop for London.
Leica Radio. Talking Points with Keith Faz. Celebrating diversity.
This is Leica Radio.
That's it for this part of the programme. After the 12 o'clock news, I will be talking to Javed Husain, an icon of the advertising industry. You can also ring in and have a chat after 12:30 p.m. today. I'm very interested in anyone affected by the issues raised by Jaz Bumrah, the chair of the Association of British Physicians of Indian Origin. My closing song for this part of the programme is So Sick by the artist DJ Juggy. Enjoy. See you on the other side. This is Keith Faz on Leica Radio, broadcasting from London.
In London,
on your mobile,
and on DAB Digital Radio.
This is Leica Radio.
From the Sky News Centre at midday, AstraZeneca says it's working on adapting its coronavirus vaccine after a study revealed it offers less protection against the South African variant. But the firm say it's confident the jab protects against severe disease caused by the strain. Meanwhile, Vaccines Minister Nadhim Zahawi says the government will do more to persuade people from black and minority ethnic groups to take up coronavirus jabs. New data shows 91% of doses have so far been given to white people. There are concerns take up in some communities is being hit by misinformation campaigns. Junior Dr. Michael Dawes says he's shocked by attitudes even among black nursing staff.
What really got me the most is when I heard one of the nurses I spoke to say, come on, you call your black nurses, Auntie, come on, Auntie, we need to go get this vaccine, da, da, da. And she's like, no, my pastor said no. And I'm like, what?
A government minister says he wants coronavirus testing in workplaces to become the norm. Rapid testing kits are being rolled out to more employers in England, with places with over 50 workers able to get them. Experts are warning of significant disruptive snowfall and gale force winds in parts of the UK. The Met Office has issued amber warnings for the east and southeast of England. Our reporter Emma Birchley's on the beach in Felixstowe.
Just glorious here, I have to say. Yeah, horizontal snow, biting winds and an absolutely wild sea. When you look at the temperature gauge, it actually says 0, but it's that feels like temperature, which is so cold, -9, -10.
In sport, Tottenham are looking to avoid a fourth consecutive defeat in the Premier League as they host West Brom this lunchtime, while Scottish Premiership leaders Rangers will restore their 23-point advantage if they beat Hamilton. And in cricket, the third day of England's first test in India has ended with the hosts fighting back. They're on 257 for 6 in Chennai, but they still trail the tourists by 321. That's the latest. I'm Laura Safe.
I don't mind how big it is.
It's got to be big.
Just need a regular smartphone, not the latest.
I've got to have the latest.
I mean, I'll pay a bit for it.
I wonder what mine's worth on eBay.
Only £230. Now we're talking.
Sold at £230. Blimey.
Time for a celebratory selfie.
Now, what could I buy?
Sell on eBay to make extra money. Buy, sell, eBay.
Leica.
Now let's take a look at the weather, brought to you by TravelUp.com. Flights, hotels and holidays.
Good afternoon. A weather update. Cold and cloudy this afternoon with a fresh, strong northeasterly wind. Top temperature 2 degrees Celsius.
The weather update was brought to you by TravelUp.com. Our lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com or call 0207 580 5000.
This is Leica Radio. Talking Points with Keith Vaz. Celebrating diversity.
Is Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. Those Tottenham supporters, it's still 0-0. However, of course, they've only been playing for 1 minute. If you want to have a chat about any of the issues raised by Shaun Bailey or Dr. Jazz Bumrah, give me a ring after 12:30 on 0203 515 1458. That's 0203 515 1458. Maybe you'd like to stand as Mayor of London. Or you're a doctor whose dependent relatives are trying to get into the UK, or there's something else that's grabbed your attention. We're going to open the phone lines just for a bit to hear what you have to say. One event that did take place this week was the sad passing of Captain Tom Moore. This great man did so much for our country, and we were right to acknowledge what he did. An amazing life and incredible achievements. Thank you, Captain Tom. I'm a big fan of the Netflix series Mad Men. The advertising industry is such an important place to be. £24 billion a year is spent on advertising. We'll be hearing from the godfather of multicultural media, Javed Husain. And the use of the word godfather is in the traditional sense of being avuncular and being kind, not the sense of Marlon Brando and making an offer that you can't refuse. It's a fascinating interview. Please stay tuned. But first, let's hear some music.
Love it when the sun shines on your face. No, there ain't nobody that could take your place. Need Sony, yeah. Dylan Johnny, yeah. I wrote that song for you. So baby, come right here. Baby, you should let me love you. Let me be the one to give you everything. जाना मेरी कोल तू आ जा प्यार से पूछा जाना मैनू तू ना सता लगदा ना दिल हुन तेरे तो बगैर तेरे उत्ते मारे दाए देख सारा शहर फुल्लां तो भी सोहनी बिल लगदी है तू लुट गई है मैनू इना करीदा नहीं कहर इना करीदा नहीं कहर सारा तकदा है शहर तंग करदी है क्यों तू ते मैं एक दूजे ਲਈ मैं ते तू एक दूजे दे दिल विच आ बस जाइए दुनिया नू भुल जाइए एक अपना महल बनाइए एक दूजे नू इना चाहिए दो तो एक हो जाइए हाँ दो तो एक हो जाइए Baby you should let me love you let me be the one to give you everything मेरी कॉल तू आ जाना मेरी कॉल तू आ जा प्यार से पूछा जाना मैनू तू ना सता लग जाना दिल हुण तेरे तो बगैर तेरे उत्ते मारे दाए देख सारा शहर फुल्लां तो भी सोहनी बिल लगदी है तू लुट गई है मैनू इना करीदा नहीं कहर इना करीदा नहीं कहर सारा तकदा है शहर तंग करदी है क्यों ठहर जरा एक पल ठहर आ गल मेरी सुन ले ठहर जरा एक पल ठहर आ गल मेरी सुन ले लग जाना दिल हुण तेरे तो बगैर तेरे उत्ते मारे दाए देख सारा शहर फुल्लां तो भी सोहनी बिल लगदी है तू लुट गई है मैनू इना करीदा नहीं कहर इना करीदा नहीं कहर सारा तकदा है शहर तंग करदी है क्यों Baby you should let me love you let me be the one to
Like a Radio.
Back-to-back hits.
Brought to you by Travel Hub. For the best service with unbeatable price, call Travel Hub on 0208 782 8833.
हमसे सस्ता कहीं नहीं मिल सकता
Travel Hub.
At all protected.
सात समंदर पार गई मैं सब कुछ तुझ पे हार गई मैं खुद ही खुद की नहीं रही मैं ओ सजना पर तू मुझ पे नजर करे ना थोड़ी सी भी फिक्र करे ना मन्नत कर करके थक गई मैं ओ सजना
लाखों का दिल तेरा ये तेरा थंडर सा ठुमका अब नखरा ना कर तू बिजली बन के बे तू फ्लोर पे आ गिर मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी Drop. पड़ गया हूँ मुश्किल में दिल मेरा तड़पावे छोड़ के दुनिया सारी पीछे तेरे आवे दिल धड़काना भूल ही जाते नींद वींद अब मुझे ना आते हो रहा क्या समझ ना पाते हो सजनी सोचे तू क्या इतना पास मेरे आजा दुनिया से डरना ना बारिश बन के बे तू फ्लोर पे आ गिर मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी Drop. क्या कर डाला रात दिन बस तेरा ही जब रही हूँ माला प्यार मोहब्बत इश्क की बातें कुछ न समझ अब मुझे है आते बिन तेरे अब जी नहीं पाते हो सजना तुझ पे मरता तेरे मूव्स से मैं डरता अब इतना ना तरसा तूफान बन के बे तू फ्लोर पे आ गिर मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी ना नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी मेरी रानी नाच नाच मेरी रानी रानी.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the music. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. My special guest now is the godfather of multicultural media in the United Kingdom and Europe. Born in Lucknow, he came to the UK aged 20 and studied advertising at Watford College. He worked for the media behemoth IMG before striking out on his own. His clients have included some of the biggest names in British business, including BT, Premier Foods and the World Gold Council. He has year on year generated over £2 billion for the brands he has worked for a number of bespoke communication campaigns. He has lectured at Oxford and won numerous awards. Javed Husain joins me from North London. He is the creator and owner of Media Reach Advertising. Good morning, Javed Husain.
Good morning, Keith.
Now, Javed, you are a rarity in terms of the people who I have interviewed. You have entered and you now dominate the multicultural media industry, but your life started in a very traditional way.
Keith, I think we all are created, and I have a feeling is that our early life is what really creates us and who we become as human beings. And I would always say that my experience of life growing up in Lucknow has been fantastic, because I grew up in a city which is famous for the Nawabs, and it has a mixture of all races. In my class at La Martiniere College, where I studied 12 years, was with a group of people who were like one Sikh guy, two Christian guys, one Bengali, and me being the Muslim. We were called the Five Stars as a group, and we were best of friends. So that's really my experience of me growing up.
But you came here, you left Lucknow behind, you came here at the age of 20, and you ended up at Watford College with the eyes on becoming a traditional accountant, but you left that field to become an ad man.
You know, like all as Asians, you know, the inspiration for my dad sending me to study in the UK was, at that time, and I agree with his world, you know, was to look at either go and become a doctor, and if you can't become a doctor, at least, for God's sake, become an accountant. Accountancy was really boring for me, and I wanted to be much more in the creative field. Interesting is that my elder brother ran in advertising, and he still has that in India. And every time after finishing my O-levels, or it used to be called ICSC in India, I sat in his agency, and it was the best time I had, writing copy for some ads for the Hindustan Times. And that was my experience of creativity. My cousin sister influence was there because she was at home always coming up with her big bag and her drawing. So I used to love sitting down and creating images of the Mughal emperors. It's going to be an interesting space for me to look at.
And you got the bug, and you started your advertising career with a behemoth, the IMG in London. And when you went in there on your first day, when you walked into the headquarters of IMG in London, did you feel you were now an ad man, or was it, let's see how it goes, and if it doesn't work, I can always do something else?
Well, I think I had the intention because my dad, he didn't know that I was still in advertising. He was still paying for my accountancy. And I went and did the post-graduation in advertising. When I joined there, it was more on the advertising sales side of it. I came from a background of looking at strategy and creativity. And I realized that I was the only Asian man on the floor. There wasn't anybody in advertising. There wasn't. If I said that if I saw anybody, either the CFO or the accounts payable guy, that was where the advertising was. So it was very much a white, so a very male-dominated industry. I do recall is that I think a year into working in the advertising industry, 3 of us used to join together at Drummond Street for a curry. At that time, Salman had written if you remember, the very famous lines of his for Carlsberg, beer reaches the part which other beers can't. That was his strap line at the time. And I think he was the, I think, probably other person in the creative industry in the UK.
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458, talking to the man dubbed as the godfather of multicultural media in the UK and Europe, Javed Husain. Join me after the break when we'll be talking about the similarities between his business and the actors on Mad Men. Join me shortly.
Starting from tomorrow, we
unprecedented time.
Experts discuss update.
When things don't feel so good out there, make inside feel better. There are things we can all do to look after our mental well-being. Every Mind Matters can get you started with a free NHS online plan, showing you simple steps to help manage anxiety, sleep better, and boost your mood. For your mental health action plan, search Every Mind Matters today.
Pakistan is calling. The mobile plan you've been waiting for has arrived. You can now get 1,000 minutes to call Pakistan from your Leica mobile with Pakistan Plus M bundle. You can also get 3 GB of data and 1,000 minutes and text in the UK. All of that for the low price of £20 for 30 days. Never miss the chance to keep in touch with your family again with Leica Mobile. Visit leicamobile.co.uk to see the full offer today. T&Cs apply. Leica Mobile.
Reputation counts, and when it comes to Bharat Gangaram Caterers, then you've made the right choice. A takeaway service with finger-licking food with a 20% discount on your first order via bharatgangaram.com or via our mobile app. We're also available on Uber Eats, Deliveroo and Just Eat. So, indulge in some yummy street food, fusion, Gujarati, Punjabi dishes and tasty desserts. Check our website for specials published every week. So, yaad rakhiye, bharatgangaram.com for a first-class reputable service.
I love you. This Valentine's, buy your Valentine a rose gold rose, or silver rose. Gold Bank London Valentine's collection, price starting from just £99. Buy your Valentine's rose from goldbank.co.uk and get delivery, or call 0203 500 1111. I love you.
Leica Radio.
કેમ છો મજામાં હું અલકાસા તમારા પોતાના રેડિયો દ્વારા તમારા બિઝનેસ અને સર્વિસની એડવર્ટાઇઝ તેમજ કોમ્યુનિટી સર્વિસ અને ઇવેન્ટની જાણકારી લોકો સુધી પહોંચાડવા માટે મારો સંપર્ક કરો અલકાસા 0207 132 1458 પર કોવિડ-19 ના ખાસ ભાવનો લાભ લેવાનું ચૂકતા નહીં આજે જ ફોન કરજો
We're Leica Media, your Leica Radio and Dilsay Radio.
Leica Radio, your number one.
For the freshest hits across London. This is Leica Radio.
New tracks added daily. Talking Points with Keith Vaz, celebrating diversity.
This is Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. I am talking to the godfather of the multicultural media in the UK and Europe, Javed Husain. Now, Javed, when you started off your business, Media Reach Advertising, had you seen an episode of Mad Men? Obviously, Netflix wasn't around when you started it.
You're
but
right, yeah.
Compare your company with the mythical Mad Men in the way in which they do their advertising business. Is that the reality, or is it actually quite different?
Well, I think advertising is a very interesting space. It's not your everyday banking. Your challenges are quite a lot. And I think you're taking a brand, which I call sometimes is you're creating a brand. So you're creating a conversation inside humans, because then they will buy a brand over another brand. So sometimes you have to bring in things which will attract different human beings, you know. Yeah. So everybody has a different way of sort of being, and that's why you have to have excitement. Sometimes it's maddening, and I think that's why probably it comes in, because it's a maddening career, and the stress level is pretty high. And that's probably where it is. I've got 2 stents, and I think it's a medal which I get working in advertising. There you go.
Well, we're all part of the Stent Club. It's interesting to look at the figures, and I think the public don't understand the figures. The United Kingdom is Europe's top-performing market when it comes to advertising spend, and the fourth largest globally after the US, China and Japan. And the total amount expected to be spent this year on advertising is going to be £24 billion. This is an enormous amount of money.
Especially television advertising is a really great space because I think it reaches inside your house. So, you get people who are present to the television because you are in their living room, and the impact level is pretty strong. So you see that if you can properly advertise, I would say at one time we used to call it either you go on the ITV News or you are on the Coronation Street, which you'll suddenly get a 20 million people viewing your ad itself. So here you are, and you want to change a perception, or you want to sell a product, or you want to talk about the Harrods sales. The best time is to have somewhere where you can get that maximum impact. And I think the power of television and power of advertising is a key thing in building brands. That's why you can see we are the people who create good brands. Britain creates the best brands. When you go to America, there's a lot of advertising, but it's more fake. Here we spend money in really going and finding the unique selling points. We have a good insight into how people behave, and we create very good creatives. And that's the strength of British creativity.
There are lots of companies that are headed by white people, not Asians like yourself, and this market is saturated. How then did you get to work with brands like British Telecom, Rank-Hovis, the Alliance and Leicester, the Royal Navy, the Royal Air Force, Premier Foods, to name but a few? But these are mainstream companies. How difficult was it as an Asian person to go and bid for those contracts?
You're right. It's been a tough start, for us to fight and then be there and tell them that we can do as good as anybody else, You see, when you come from a diverse audience, and I think this is why when you asked me the question about my growing up in India, you understand more people. You understand lots of different cultures. So your thinking is not one-directional. We think more outside of the box. So as a creative or as a strategy or as an agency, we are able to look at people who are thinking more on those bases. So when we worked on BT, we were looking at the UK is so diverse. BT needs to address a diverse audience. So we did campaigns not only just for the Asians, we looked at the American community living here, the Japanese were living here, because they were spending a lot of money in their calls back home. Because at that time, going back a little bit forward, you were paying £1.50 or £2 for a minute call. And that's what we did, is diversify the picture on the screen and then fought for that there is more people than just one color.
When you get a client coming to you and they go, sell this product, okay, how much of it is them saying, this is what we want to do, and you saying, this is what you want to do? What's the balance? Because at the end of the day, the client has to be happy.
The best client is one who has the ability to understand your experience, i.e. he doesn't have his own ego and he doesn't want you to do what he wants you to do. And if the client knows, and you have to be ahead of the client in understanding. So it means you have to always keep on recreating yourself and the team to be refreshed. So that's why if you have that, there are the agencies who just do what the client tells you to do. I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, when I'm filming with directors, there's one director who just does the storyboard which you created at the agency, and he'll say, I'll do exactly what you want. And then there is another director who brings life to that storyboard, who adds the beauty to it, who creates campaigns which people will then remember afterwards. And that's what it is with agencies as well. You'll either have the agencies who just come and do what the client wants to do, and I call them the slave agencies, or agencies which create brand.
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458. I'm talking to the godfather of multicultural media in the UK and Europe, Javed Husain. When we come back, we're going to be talking about diversity in the advertising industry. Join us after the break.
Leica Radio.
Leica Media brings you easy to understand latest information in your own language on the deadly COVID variant, on how you can protect yourself by simply staying at home.
কোভিডের নতুন ভেরিয়েন্টের সংক্রমণ বন্ধ করতে এটি খুবই গুরুত্বপূর্ণ যে আপনারা আমরা সবাই বাড়িতে থাকি এবং অত্যন্ত দরকারি কাজ ব্যতীত যাতে আমরা না বেরোই, সে হাউসহোল্ডের বাইরে কারোর সঙ্গে মেলামেশা করা এই সময় বন্ধ রাখা উচিত। একটি পরিবার বা একটি হাউসহোল্ড অন্য হাউসহোল্ডের সঙ্গে সাপোর্ট বাবল বানাতে পারে, শুধুমাত্র একটি সাপোর্ট বাবলই বানাতে পারে এবং সাপোর্ট বাবল বানাবার নিয়ম কানুন dove.uk ওয়েবসাইটে চেক করে নিন, দেখে নিন।
Tune into the evening show on Leica Radio between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. and the Ravi Sharma show between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. on Dil Se Radio this Monday to understand how stay at home can help in Bengali.
Leica Radio.
Happy weekend by MeraBoiler.com. Their special offer: Valiant boiler with 10 years part and labor guarantee with 0% finance available. MeraBoiler.com.
Leica Radio.
Leica Radio. Travel update.
I'm Michael Page. Kennington Oval remains closed on the eastbound side coming from Harleyford Road to Oval Station at Kennington Park Road because of sewer works. In Chessington, Leatherhead Road, the A243 is still closed both ways between the Morden Rushet traffic lights and Garrison Lane because of an earlier building fire. And in Kilburn, Willesden Lane is still closed both ways because of a police investigation between the A5 Kilburn High Road and Christchurch Primary School. In Watford, Chalk Hill is still blocked on the westbound side near the Victoria Pub for emergency repairs. On the underground, the Circle Line and Hammersmith and City Line still have severe delays because of an earlier staff shortage. And engineering work this weekend means there's no Northern Line trains running between Moorgate and Kennington, the Metropolitan Line between Harrow on the Hill and Aldgate, and on the Jubilee Line between West Hampstead and Stanmore. Overground trains are replaced by buses between Surrey Quays and Clapham Junction, and overground services still aren't running between Romford and Upminster. There are no TfL rail services between Liverpool Street and Shenfield, and until midday Southern aren't running services between Shepherd's Bush and Watford Junction. And just a reminder, Southeastern and Southern still have many cancellations in place because of the snow, and it's best to check before setting out to see how your journey's affected. And that's the latest traffic and travel.
Leica Radio.
I need to feel the power.
Yeah, I only use it for emails.
I need a laptop with oomph.
Gaming, movie making, not for me.
I need this in my life.
There's someone on eBay who needs this.
Only 274 quid? Pff, no brainer.
Gosh, I got way more than I thought.
I bought it. Sweet.
I sold it. Marvellous.
Sell on eBay to make extra money. Buy, sell, eBay.
This is Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458, talking to the godfather of the multicultural media in the UK and Europe, the person who heads the biggest ethnically led advertising agency in Britain. Javed Husain. There are 10,000 advertising agencies currently operating in the UK. Not many like yours, which is ethnic minority led and owned. Do you think that enough is being done by the industry as far as diversity is concerned?
Well, Keith, it's been a real fight in making sure that this is being done. I know the change which is coming from the Black Lives Matter, there is a eminent change which is happening, but I feel sometimes it's tokenistic. It tends to fade out. So in my space, I call it brand justice, that brands need to really look at is that there is a diverse audience. In some cases, I give this example to a grocery client and say, look, guys, ethnic family is like a 3-generational family who live together. Their consumption habits are pretty high. So they don't buy half a cucumber. They go to Wembley High Street and buy 3 cucumbers together. And now you can see Tesco's have created aisles which are relevant to the audience. And that's where the shift is happening for bigger brands to look at it. Today, I feel that the total market size, and I'm sure the new census figures will come out, will be twice as what we think the total ethnic minority is. And at the same time, it's the youngest, fastest growing community, which is the ethnic community.
The brown pound, which is what it's called, and the black pound is pretty important. But it's people like you who make sure that the big brands, such as the people you work with, understands the nature. How much do you push when it comes to the type of actors that we have selling these brands? I'm talking about those who appear on television, because on the figures, 52% of people stated that television is where they're most likely to find advertising that they trust, compared to only 6% for YouTube and 5% for the social media. I mean, we have the manager of the Halifax, God bless him, who appeared for many, many series, and he was telling us all to go to the Halifax. But we've not got many others, have we? I mean, we've got Thierry Henry driving his Renault, but it is a French car and he is French. So how much do you push for this, and when are we going to see more Black and Asian actors?
You can see there's a big shift happening. How we have been doing, we've always been putting forward, because, there is also an issue that there isn't a lot of sometimes talent on television. So BBC needs to do the work. Channel 4 needs to make sure that there's more programming and more relevance in there. And see, what has happened is that advertising revenue has shifted, or the eyeballs so the ethnic minority have shifted to satellite television. And it's on satellite television where they're watching. And that's where they are. There's a massive disconnect between the mainstream messaging and the ethnic minority messaging, because there isn't good programming on mainstream. And I think with for instance, I can see Sainsbury's just launched with the Back Family, the commercial, and there was such a big backlash on that, of that lovely cake which he has baked and he sings for his daughter.
Yeah.
And I find it extraordinary that in this period of time where we come out, for instance, if you drive in London, there's such a diversity. You travel on the tube, people are speaking so many different languages.
I've noticed a number of the families are now multicultural. I think the eBay advert has a white man and a black woman.
Well, it is. I find it to sometimes find, and that's why I think it's a compromise space, where you want to show a family which is half, and then you look at, that's really, again, can you see it's the fear which advertisers have.
Really?
Of these 2 or 5 letters which they're going to receive, rather than looking at what is my true audience. Have I addressed them or not?
Yes.
Do I need to do something, because they are guilty of brand justice, in the sense is that they have not given back to us, because we as viewers coming from different have been spending. We're the ones who've been buying Mercedes for how long? Have you seen a Mercedes advertisement? No.
In terms of the way in which you can influence outside the advertising industry, you had a real influence over the London Olympics 2012 committee. Probably the best multicultural show any country has ever had, ever. What was that like?
I remember the pitch. We went in and we were in a bigger pitch where we pitched with a mainstream agency and a couple of other people. We pitched together, and they didn't get the award and we were given the award. Because what I stood and talked to the entire GLA and the team who are looking at what should be the messaging. And I said, look, we are in this country. London is a place where the whole world exists in London. There's a mini China. There's a mini India. There's a mini Lagos. Everybody is here in London. Imagine if we sell that as a strategy, that everybody will come in, people will come in, and they will do more trading with us. They will do other things. That's what it is. So London is the world.
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458, talking to the godfather of the multicultural media in the UK and Europe. I'm finding it very difficult to keep this to time because it's such a fascinating discussion. Join me after the break.
Leica Radio.
Good afternoon. Just a live update for you regarding the pandemic and homeschooling. If you're tuned in right now, during the pandemic, homeschooling has become the new norm. So many parents have been struggling to provide constant internet connectivity for their children for homeschooling. Now, if that's you, please get in touch, because the Leica Group has tied up with the Department of Education to help out disadvantaged children to boost their existing data allowance with 20 gigabytes of data. Please do check with your school on whether you qualify for the Great Help with Technology program by the Education Department. Now, where can you get information for this? Let me give you that information just now. You can go and visit leicamobile.co.uk/COVID support for terms and conditions.
Leica Radio. Leica.
Celebrating 7 years of Leica Radio.
Leica Radio.
And Dilse Radio.
Dilse Radio.
Thank you, our dear listeners, advertisers, and well-wishers for your support.
Yono SBI UK mobile app.
Send money to India anytime from anywhere with preferential exchange rate.
Yono SBI UK mobile app.
Open an instant access saving account right from your mobile.
Terms and conditions apply. SBI UK Limited is authorised by the PRA and regulated by the FCA and PRA.
Starting from tomorrow, we
unprecedented time.
Experts to news update.
When things don't feel so good out there, make inside feel better. There are things we can all do to look after our mental well-being. Every Mind Matters can get you started with a free NHS online plan, showing you simple steps to help manage anxiety, sleep better, and boost your mood. For your mental health action plan, search Every Mind Matters today.
I love you. This Valentine's, buy your Valentine a rose gold rose or silver rose. Gold Bank London Valentine's collection, price starting from just £99. Buy your Valentine's rose from goldbank.co.uk and get delivery, or call 0203 500 1111.
I love you.
Pakistan is calling. The mobile plan you've been waiting for has arrived. You can now get 1,000 minutes to call Pakistan from your Leica mobile with Pakistan Plus M bundle. You can also get 3 GB of data and 1,000 minutes and text in the UK. All of that for the low price of £20 for 30 days. Never miss the chance to keep in touch with your family again with Leica Mobile. Visit leicamobile.co.uk to see the full offer today. T&Cs apply. Leica Mobile.
Celebrating 7 years of Leica Radio.
Leica Radio.
And Dilse Radio.
Dilse Radio.
देखा एक ख्वाब तो ये सिलसिले हुए
Thank you, our dear listeners, advertisers, and well-wishers for your support.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458. I'm talking to the godfather of multicultural media in the UK and Europe, Javed Husain. Now, Javed, you believe in giving something back. You are delivering lectures at universities, places like Oxford, Brunel and other UK universities, around the subject of brand and multicultural marketing. Why are you doing this? You lead a very busy life, you've got lots of clients, but you're giving something back to the next generation. Why is that important to you?
I think we need to realize is that what we have, if we don't share it, we're going to lose it. And for me, the best thing is that we are born to serve, and we need to serve humanity. And if we can bring justice into our society here in the UK, where my children, my grandchildren are going to be growing up, where there is diversity, it's like the spice that everybody uses. It's not that, it's the salt, I would say, that we all want to use in our cooking. That's what it is. And it's important for us to change the mindset of our parents that advertising and in marketing is a new career. It's a new thing. So that's what is important. When I walked into a couple of universities and had a chat, and I could see a couple of young Asian kids, and the way they saw me and the way they reacted, I've employed few of them. They've come through the system of working with me only because I was at a lecture. They've come and got back after they finished their course, or during their course they've been in touch with me, and they've come in an internship. And I'm so proud that they are today heading departments in different agencies. That for me is something that if I don't, it's not for me. It's for our next generation. And that's what we need to really do. Yeah.
Your family is really, really important to you.
Yeah.
Obviously, you defied your father and didn't become the doctor or the accountant that you wanted him to be. Were you better with your children? Have you allowed them to do what they want?
Yes, I think, as you grow up, and I was started to sort of push them into a certain direction. I mean, I remember my son came back and he had a space at King's, and then he wanted to go to Goldsmiths, where it was filmed. I was insisting on King's because I thought, no, you need to go here. That's the right way of doing it. And I remember, then I thought, I have to give it up. My wife came and said to me, and I gave it up. And today, he really makes me proud where he is, and he's doing what he wants to do. And a small little example is that I had my entire 2 or 3 creative teams, and there's an outside production team, and the client had given us a brief to produce an ad for a millennial, sort of more targeting a younger generation of Asians, with the brand Elephant Atta, which is like a brand, literally from a flour brand we've created as a brand. You know, we worked with 17 years on it, and we really created, and it's literally a core to an Asian household. And my kids, and both of them, my daughter drew the thing and my son wrote it, and they came and presented on Monday to the client, and I made sure that I'm not party to it. The account director looked at it and went and presented, and the client loved it. That was my defining moment, is that giving your children the space to grow in, and the whole thing at the end of the life is, are they happy? It's not about £100,000 salary, but it's about, are they happy where they are? And I think especially with this lockdown, it needs to be looked at that.
How many children do you have, and what are their names?
Yeah, I have 4 wonderful children. Sama is my eldest daughter, then Nasir was my son, and then Amani and Yusuf. And I'm really proud, even my daughter Amani, now she's gone into St. Martin's doing art, because I always wanted to go to St. Martin's when I came here to study, because I thought St. Martin's was the best, but I got into Watford College. You know, she's made me proud.
Tell me what your favourite advert is of all time. I'll tell you mine. It's the Smash advert, which we used to see on black and white television, because when we came to England, we were all very young. But our favourite advert was the aliens dealing with Smash, and they had the humans peeling potatoes, and the little aliens' heads were all laughing and saying, hee hee hee. You know...
It's well
What's your
my
favourite?
time, but, you know,
What's your favourite? What's your favourite advert?
I love ad, and every time I saw it was for Cadbury's, it was Phil Collins' song, and it's the gorilla with the drum. And it's just like, it just starts and it's so beautiful. For me, so cost-effective, so memorable, and it just brings a smile to your face. And you want to be, you know, with Cadbury's rather than, you know, that same old of every time of women sort of breaking the Cadbury bar, you know, to really be out of the face of asking all the time women to sell something, but be more in that fun space. You know, I think that's really is my best, you know.
Javed, we always ask our guests to choose a song that means a lot to them and to dedicate it to someone. Which song would you like to choose for us to play, and who is it dedicated to?
Well, I think I would dedicate it to my kids. It's a song I always remember as a child, you know, Kabhi Kabhi Mere Dil Mein Khayal Aata Hai. So I think it's a beautiful song. It's that my children has been brought this beautiful earth for me. And every time I listen to it, I do remember all the loves of my life, my mother, my wife, and all my kids. So that's the beautiful thing.
Javed, we know your motto in life is keep innovating every day, and I'm sure that you will carry on innovating every day in the future. Thank you so much for joining us on Talking Points today. It has been fascinating. We could have gone on for an hour talking to you about the stuff that you're doing and that you will do. Thank you for joining us, and have a great Sunday.
Thank you, Keith, and everybody. Keep safe and then enjoy life and create your new self every time. Thank you.
Now let's listen to Javed's record.
कभी कभी मेरे दिल में ख्याल आता है, कभी कभी मेरे दिल में ख्याल आता है कि जैसे तुझको बनाया गया है मेरे लिए, कि जैसे तुझको बनाया गया है मेरे लिए। तू अब से पहले सितारों में बस रही थी कहीं, तू अब से पहले सितारों में बस रही थी कहीं, तुझे ज़मीं पे बुलाया गया है मेरे लिए, तुझे ज़मीं पे बुलाया गया है मेरे लिए। कभी कभी मेरे दिल में ख्याल आता है कि ये बदन ये निगाहें मेरी अमानत है, कि ये बदन ये निगाहें मेरी अमानत है, ये गेसुओं की घनी छाँव है मेरी खातिर ये होठ और ये
This is Leica Radio.
Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio. Thank you to Javed Husain for that wonderful interview. We're going to open the lines for a little bit this week and to talk to you about your concerns about any of the issues that have been raised. I think we have on the line Hisham, who is calling us from Charnwood. Good afternoon, Hisham.
Good afternoon, Keith. How are you?
I'm fine. So what particularly did you want to talk to us about today?
Well, I wanted to start off by thanking you for such a wonderful program. It's afternoon now, and that last song was such an enchanting one where Javed, your previous caller, your previous guest had dedicated it to his children. And I couldn't but help understand and fall in love with the love between a father and a son. And also reflect on what my parents have given me to bring me who we are. I am a GP by trade. I work in Leicester, and I also belong to a lot of doctors' organization called as APNI, and we have very close collaboration with a lot of doctors from the Indian subcontinent as well, some from Papio, as well as from other parts of the world as well, Egyptian doctors, Nigerian doctors. Now, one of the themes over the last pandemic year has been how much a lot of my colleagues have actually been suffering because of their parents falling ill, and for the huge distance that has been there between the parents when they are in foreign countries and when the parents fall ill, how it affects a lot of my colleagues.
Sure.
It's something which is very close to my heart because I've seen a lot of suffering from doctors.
Yes, this is the visa issue raised by Dr. Bumrah earlier on from Manchester. How do you think this is resolved? Is it that they want their parents to come here permanently, or is it that they just want the parents to come on a visit? I understand that they're frontline people like yourself. Are you personally affected by this, or is it other people you know?
I am personally affected by it because I've got parents who are elderly now, who are getting on with age. They're in conditions as their frailty is increasing. There's a bit of dementia taking place. My dad, in particular, has lived all his life in the Middle East, and once he's retired, he's moved back to Pakistan. There are a lot of challenges that he's got. There's a bit of financial abuse happening. There's a lot of perceptions from different people. So that's just my case, where I am personally affected by it.
Sure.
Where the government has got... so there have been some rule changes which took place somewhere around about 2012.
Yeah.
And since then, the number of visas, which before was about 2,500, fell down to only about 150 a year. And each of those 150s have only been granted by going and fighting tooth and nail in the court of law.
Yes. So you basically want it to be a much easier process because of the pandemic.
It has to be equitable. Look, the thing is that we always ask the government to do the right thing, the moral thing, and there is this moral argument where they do not consider our parents or my parents as being part of my family. They consider my family, or the definition for family within the Home Office government, as being between me, my wife, and my children.
Yes.
But when it comes up to my parents, they do not consider them part of my part of my
Hisham,
family.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Very grateful. Thanks. Let's now go over to Harrow and talk to Sunny Singh. Good afternoon, Sunny Singh.
Good afternoon, Keith. It's a pleasure to be talking to you this afternoon.
Okay, what point would you like to share with Talking Points?
My main question is, considering the present pandemic, where a lot of industries are suffering, and travel and tourism has been hit very hard. So, to kickstart, will UK would be issuing the vaccine passport to enable the people to travel overseas, which has been done by Denmark, Sweden, and including USA also, as per the latest report.
But do you yourself think that a passport's a good idea, and or do you think this is more bureaucracy? And obviously you'd need to get that passport after the second vaccination, correct?
Yes, that I agree. But then it is very assuring, considering so many formalities are being done at the airport, and both at the time of leaving the airport and getting to the other airport, getting to the destination airport. I think vaccine passport is a great idea, which is very assuring, and then it instills the confidence both in the mind of traveler and the country which are going to receive the visitors. So it is very reassuring, very, because the thing is, at the moment, we not only have to travel, but we have also to generate confidence in the people's minds that it is now getting safe to travel. That is what. And UK economy is primarily dependent upon tourism and trade. We get lot of tourists. We also send a lot of tourists.
Do you think that these passports will be issued soon? Obviously, people are talking about the passport, the vaccine passport. So you have when you travel abroad, what you're suggesting is you have your own passport, and then you have another passport confirming that you've had the vaccination. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah, that's the main thing.
You don't think it should be stamped in your passport? I'm just thinking of when you're on your way to the airport with your family of 5. I'm not saying you've got a family of 5. It's trouble enough remembering your passport. If you've got other documentation, do you think there's a case for actually stamping it in the passport that you've got? Is that one way around it?
It is up to the government to decide whether they want to stamp on the passport or they will like to issue a booklet, like Indians when they travel abroad, they carry... When they travel to India,
what do you think, Sonny? Do you think it should be a separate document? Because if you're going back to India, you've got your OIC. I assume you've got an OIC. You've got your British passport, and now you're going to have a third document. What do you think is the best way?
I think it's better to have a separate booklet. Booklet, yes. It's not going to be heavy and bulky. It's not going to be heavy and bulky.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your comments. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I thank our callers very much for ringing? And I'm sorry, we've not left a lot of time for people to ring, so I'm going to have to cut it short. But thank you. We are going to be around next week as well, so ring in for a chat with me next week. In the meantime, let's go for a flight update with or without your vaccine passport.
Leica Radio.
The Flight Update is brought to you by TravelUp.com. Flights, hotels and holidays.
The Flight Update this afternoon. BA Flight 561 flying in from Milan, landing at London Heathrow. Expected time 3:40 this afternoon.
This flight update was brought to you by TravelUp.com. Lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com or call 0207 580 5000.
Pakistan is calling. The mobile plan you've been waiting for has arrived. You can now get 1,000 minutes to call Pakistan from your Leica mobile with Pakistan Plus M bundle. You can also get 3 GB of data and 1,000 minutes and text in the UK. All of that for the low price of £20 for 30 days. Never miss the chance to keep in touch with your family again with Leica Mobile. Visit leicamobile.co.uk to see the full offer today. T&Cs apply. Leica Mobile.
Starting from tomorrow, we
unprecedented time.
Experts to news update.
When things don't feel so good out there, make inside feel better. There are things we can all do to look after our mental well-being. Every Mind Matters can get you started with a free NHS online plan, showing you simple steps to help manage anxiety, sleep better, and boost your mood. For your mental health action plan, search Every Mind Matters today.
I love you. This Valentine's, buy your Valentine a rose gold rose, or silver rose. Gold Bank London Valentine's collection, price starting from just £99. Buy your Valentine's rose from goldbank.co.uk and get delivery, or call 0203 500 1111. I love you.
Could you look a COVID-19 patient in the eyes and tell them the risk isn't real? Could you tell an intensive care nurse on a 12-hour shift that you never bend the rules? Could you say, in all honesty, that you only ever leave home when you absolutely have to? Around 1 in 3 people who have COVID-19 have no symptoms and are spreading it without knowing. Are you absolutely positive you're not one of them? Stay home. Protect the NHS. Save lives.
Leica Radio and Dilsey Radio celebrate Valentine's Day with you. We know how Valentine's Day will be different this year, and that's why Leica Media wants to convey your message to your loved ones. Send in your audio voice note to Leica Media on our WhatsApp number 07424 40 40 40. Then listen on Valentine's Day across our stations for your message. Make your audio note short and snappy and get them in before the 13th of February. Leica Media. with you always.
The biggest hits
Non-stop for London.
This is Leica Radio.
Talking Points with Keith Vaz, celebrating diversity.
This is Leica Radio.
That's it for this week. Time's up, doesn't 2 hours fly? My thanks to my guests, Shaun Bailey, AM, Javed Husain, Professor Jaz Bamra, Roshni Thakra for her Songs of the Week, and of course to our callers. Thank you for ringing in. I'm sorry we didn't have much time this week. We'll make sure we give you some more time next week so we can discuss all those very important issues that are going on in the world. My fact of the week concerns a man called Percy Spencer, the inventor of the microwave. Percy was working as a researcher for an American company now called Raytheon, one of the biggest electronic companies in the world. While he was sitting there having his lunch, he noticed a radar set using electromagnetic waves melted the chocolate bar which was in his pocket. He had the idea of making a metal box using microwaves to heat food, but poor Percy forgot to patent the idea. The company patented it for him. So for his great invention, he received the massive bonus of just $2. Amazing. So the moral of the story is, if you have a good idea, then you should patent it immediately. All you have to do is go onto the internet and they'll tell you exactly how to patent your product or your idea. And in that way, you will not have the same fate as Percy Spencer. Thank you to the production team, Eve, Sonia, my producer Rupi, and of course my editor Adam. Our thoughts and prayers at Leica, as always, are with those who have lost their loved ones during the pandemic. Mokshika follows the news at 1 on Leica Radio, and Jazz will be on Dilsey Radio at the same time. After that, on Leica at 4 o'clock, you'll have Nadeem. I was listening to his programme this week. He was giving us the recipe for strawberry yoghurt. Fascinating. My closing song for this week is from the global film sensation Slumdog Millionaire, which launched the career of Dev Patel. It won an Oscar and a Grammy. It's written by A.R. Rahman and words by Gulsa, sung by the Pussycat Dolls. Unbelievably, it's 13 years old, almost twice the age of Leica Radio. So let's hear Jai Ho, Let There Be Victory. Stay safe, stay tuned, and have a great Sunday. This has been Keith Vaz on Leica Radio, broadcasting from London.
You hug it all you got, I'll make you wanna say Jai-ho! Jai-ho! I got fever, running like a fire. For you I will go all the way, I'm gonna take you higher. Jai-ho! I keep it steady, 'cause steady is how I feel it. Jai-ho! This beat is heavy, so heavy, you gon' feel it. Jai-ho! Through my veins, there's an ocean
8 in London.
On your mobile.
And on DAB Digital Radio.
This is Leica Radio.
From the Sky News Centre at 1, AstraZeneca and Oxford University have begun work to adapt their coronavirus vaccine after a study found it was less effective against the South African variant. The company says it believes the jab does prevent serious disease, but some recipients have experienced mild illness. Meanwhile, the government insists so-called coronavirus vaccine passports won't be given out. Nadine Sahawi thinks introducing them to allow people to travel after having both doses of the jab could be discriminatory, but the Vaccines Minister says there could be alternative plans if verification is needed around the world.
If other countries obviously require some form of proof, then you can ask your GP, because your GP will hold the record. And of course, that will then be able to be used as your proof that you've had the vaccine.
Officials say new rapid coronavirus tests being offered to companies with more than 50 employees is part of an effort to normalise testing in the workplace. The lateral flow tests were previously only available to firms with more than 250 staff. Heavy snowfall started to hit parts of the UK as Storm Darcy is likely to bring disruption. The Met Office has issued parts of East and the southeast of England with amber weather warnings. This family's in Kent, which could get as much as 30 centimetres of snowfall in places.
I mean, my wife's up there, we've got the two daughters. There's one here. So yeah, we love it. There was the snow a few weeks ago. We was out as well. Only a little bit of a drizzle in the morning, but it was enough to get a bit of sledging in.
In sport, it's goalless at half-time in both of the lunchtime games in England and Scotland's top divisions. Tottenham are looking for their first win in 4 Premier League games as they take on West Brom, while Rangers are hoping to restore their 23-point lead at the top of the Scottish Premiership with a victory against Hamilton. And former heavyweight champion boxer Leon Spinks has died at the age of 67 after battling cancer. The American secured the world title with a victory against Muhammad Ali in 1978. That's the latest. I'm Laura Safe.
Leica Radio.
Now let's take a look at the weather, brought to you by TravelUp.com. Flights, hotels and holidays.
Okie dokie, time for a very quick weather update on Leica Radio 1458. Well, persistent snow, heavy and drifting at times is predicted. Widespread snow and bitterly cold winds, the snow often heavy, particularly across eastern areas. Further significant accumulation and drifting of snow will occur, especially for eastern areas. Ice remains likely on untreated surfaces, so please be very cautious. Now, maximum temperature for London and the surrounding areas is 1 degree Celsius, 34 Fahrenheit.
The weather update was brought to you by TravelUp.com. Our lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com or call 0207 580 5000.
Leica Radio.